if you know your tech is so good and know it's proven, which they do, because they've had customers for decades, and in the world of SaaS, that rarely happens, and then continue to expand. You look at the 50 plus million annual customers they have that continue to still expand by 20% annually. Um, it's a different sales motion than any of the other customers are doing. Um, and to Lunar's point here, they're not chasing numbers. They're not chasing, and I know he was referring to investors, but also the company is not chasing growth. They are chasing success and outcomes because it
That's
is
a really good point.
it's totally different. It's focused on our software works. Let's find out what a problem is to you that matters to you as Mr. Customer that you have to solve because the impact is so great you need to change. So let us help you identify that. I'm going to read this from the Foundry training I took yesterday. It says the core part of the value proposition for most businesses is the ontology. Ontology is a clean representation of your organization's data that is structured around common business terms. The ontology in it was tweaked application development and integration of models into decision making, details of which will be covered in the next video. For now, it's important to remember that the ontology should be a representation of your organization's data structured around business concepts. Okay, that's very important. We're focusing on outcomes and business concepts. Most modern organizations store data across many systems of record. Foundry can be used to join and correct data coming from multiple systems to create a clean data foundation in the ontology. If you're already using a data lake, data warehouse, or another solution, aggregating data from all your source systems, you can still connect Foundry to it in order to transform your data and make it available to business users through the ontology. In any case, data transformation is a useful feature of Foundry. In Foundry, you can use transforms, which is short for data transformations, to read data from data sets, transform it and save output to new data sets, and transforms can be developed into a variety of tools and executed automatically on schedule triggered by time or changes in the input data. So it's talking about the importance of preparation and planning and thinking through your business problems and concepts. And this is why, to Arnie's point, they're tackling smaller use cases so they can already show, hey, we helped you save this problem. You saved X amount of thousands of dollars. So a good example is in this boot camp, this warranty claims company they get their employees back on an 8-hour day, half of their day back by building a co-pilot in a matter of 2 weeks.
Wow.
So you see, it's that expansion that then all of a sudden says, well, now all of a sudden you got the CIO's attention and the CFO, and they're saying, hold on now. Are you telling me you can do the same kind of stuff for, let's say, our HR department and timestamps and time cards? Do we not have to pay millions of dollars to Workday for our software there? Because once you have the ontology clean and fully built out, you're essentially you could rebuild with Foundry and the different tools in it, your own little mini SaaS programs that you wouldn't have to buy Workday. You wouldn't have to use Excel. You wouldn't have to use whatever tool it may be because you already have all the data in a shared format that everyone understands in the ontology. And then all of a sudden you can now manipulate it for any user, not just your technical one.
Dom, have you noticed something that Sean mentioned related to how Palantir sells too? He mentioned something like, our buyers are not necessarily technological buyers.
No, you're exactly right. So me and CodeStrap talked about this last night, and here's the rub. Hopefully they get through this rub. So it normally is the most immediate, like, short-term sales cycle is when they can actually get to the CIO, CFO, CTO, and actually get a business, a person who's managing a P&L budget, someone who's trying to do some cost cutting and understand the business concepts. Whereas a lot of these softwares that are being decided upon, like MongoDB or Snowflake or Databricks, typically that sales motion is an IT director or a developer director and his apps team coming up and saying, "We want this tool. We've already been using it. It's really cool. Mr. CTO, CFO, give us $10 million or $5 million, whatever." Right. So it's more of a bottoms up approach to selling. And if we remember about 2 months ago, once AIP launched, Carp was like, we have access to the IT buyers for the first time. If that rub can really start not happening as much, and it can be a joint, like, because some people don't, it's a paradigm shift and a thought process shift to use Foundry over something like Databricks or Snowflake, all these point solutions that are just doing minute things here and there, but they're not actually saving dollars and driving actual outcomes. But once you get them bought on board and get them trained up, then everyone is a believer. It's one of those things, people don't like change. But once you get them comfortable with it, and that's what these boot camps are doing, you show an IT developer that they are apps developer or IT director how he can save 4 hours in his day and each day and go see his wife on time, man, you got an advocate, right? And
Sham also said on that earnings call that we are, for the first time, not having to explain to customers why they need an ontology.
Yeah.
But
which is
maybe
also really
because they start realizing, okay, the model is useless if you can't connect it very closely to the reality. I think that's the most important thing that we should always keep in mind, that AAP can only work if customers understand that to have an answer from the LLM or whatever recommendation that LLM gives you, in order to say, okay, I can actually use this for a decision, I need to know that information to be true. And this creates the machine that, actually, to use this stuff, I need to integrate the data, I need Foundry, and then I'm happy to work with that.
I mean, what Lunar was saying earlier in the chat, we were talking, and AIP is just a great Trojan horse to get people to understand the value of the ontology. And once they see the ontology and what a clean representation of your business is, then all of a sudden you're like, feed me more, show me Apollo, show me some more Foundry apps. I mean, the API connectors in Foundry alone are 250 deep. I mean, it's pretty impressive.
That also tells you about the power of the network. The broader the network, the easier it is actually to get other customers onboarding, because especially if this is just a bootcamp, is okay, your customer is happy. Hey partner, let's go and attend this bootcamp in 5 days, so in not 6-month commitment. You can have something you can taste how this actually is. Let me ask you a very quick question. How do you think it is from a cost standpoint for Palantir to have these bootcamps? Are them very costly to organize? I ask this because that is a question related to, okay, how we could expect the margins to stay. Because if they are maybe very costly to set up, then maybe we should expect margins to stay basically flat. But maybe if they are very cheap, we could even think of, maybe we will start margins expanding a little bit.
I don't think that they're too costly because they're doing them very rapidly, right? They did one in Wisconsin, they did one in Tokyo, they did one in Chicago, they just finished up Dallas. I mean, they're and the other thing is they're probably very prescriptive on which customers they're inviting, because think about it, if I have a lot of different concepts or use cases that I know that are prevalent in the healthcare industry or energy or manufacturing, I can just invite those customers and be like, I know your problem ahead of time. I know what you're struggling with. Wouldn't it be nice if you could do X, Y, and Z and let's build it for you? And so I would think that that's also what's helping these apps getting built so fastly. So hopefully it's not taking a lot of dollars out to do it, but in the long run, it's needed.
And there is something we tended to mention a lot at the beginning, but I think is not like we tend to forget a little bit. The concept of compounded knowledge. When Palantir solves a problem for a client in a specific industry, that knowledge cannot only be used to solve very similar problems in that vertical, but Shyam said what we have been solving for an oil company, so probably it was BP, we used that to solve a military supply chain problem. That concept is quite simple, but tells you how strong Palantir is and how strong it can become as the network of customers goes from 400 to, let's say, 2000. If they reach 2000, 10,000 clients, potentially that would mean that any business problem from any vertical potentially could be solved. And everything gravitates to the fact that there is a strong conviction in Palantir. Every data is a data problem. If we can generalize that problem as an archetype, we can solve potentially everything. And with the ontology, with the right tools like AP, we can solve potentially anything.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about all of this as well is we had some news this week that OpenAI is trying to raise at an $80-90 billion valuation. And I was just listening to the Olin podcast before this, and David Friedberg made a really interesting point, which is that we're entering into a new paradigm where ChatGPT unveiled multimodal engaging with models, right? You can talk to it, more visual stuff. You can give it a picture of the periodic table, and it can dissect this stuff. Like, it's getting to the point where it is just insane. And the argument David was making is that LLMs are going to start to be instituted in terms of the infrastructure of almost every operational workflow that you can think of, whether it's, ordering an Uber or ordering DoorDash, or on the enterprise side, obviously there's a million things. And if we do get into a world where LLMs truly are the de facto way in which humans engage with information, and AIP is what we believe to be the glue, and more importantly, the ontology is that glue for an enterprise to make sense of all that information, because LLMs become the new Microsoft Excel, Word, etc. Then that's just a big opportunity. And it's really exciting to me as a shareholder that they're going to market. They're getting 50% month-over-month growth in terms of customers. They're getting net new customers. They're hosting these boot camps where Alex Karp is rolling up his sleeves and getting clients involved. Because if this market's expanding to the entire world in regards to LLMs, the enterprise side of it is going to be worth many trillions. And Palantir just needs to get a small percentage of that for us to get a good return.